Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to F1 Manager. Yes, finally we return to the game, of course. I'm sure all of you have seen a lot of the news that has gone around with the game in the last couple of weeks because they have dropped pretty much out of nowhere one of the biggest updates we've ever seen to any Formula 1 game. Now, there's kind of been a lot of rumour and speculation that F1 Manager 24 was going to be the last game of the series, and I'll be honest, I'm really sad about that, especially with the update that we've got released this week as well. But it made me kind of want to get back onto the game because I genuinely believe now the game has enough kind of long-term replayability that if it is the last one we ever get, then I want to keep making content on it. Of course, if you're watching this on my main channel, this series is going to be going live on Matt212 Plays. There'll be a link down in the description below to that channel as well. I'm going to try and get videos out sort of 3 or 4 times a week, but as you will have probably read by the title, we are basically... This for us now is F1 Manager 25. What I've gone and done is I've changed up the calendar so we have got the full 2025 calendar inside the game. So as you can see, obviously we start here in Australia, we then head to Shanghai, then Suzuka, obviously for Bahrain and Jeddah. A lot of the middle stage of the season is very, very similar to obviously what we've already come to know and love. And then obviously we'll be out in Abu Dhabi ready for the finale in hopefully just a few weeks' time. I've got rid of sprint races though this season because ultimately I just find them really boring and a lot of work to do inside this game. What I've also done though is changed up all of the rosters ready for this season. So obviously Max Verstappen staying at Red Bull, Hamilton's gone to Ferrari. You can see obviously Carlos Sainz, he's now in Williams. We've obviously got Andrea Kimi Antonelli in the team alongside George Russell. There's not too many other movers though. Of course, Nico Hulkenberg down at Sauber, Liam Lawson in the Red Bull as well, and then Jack Doohan and Ollie Behrman, of course, as well as Isaac Hadjar and Bortoletto both making their debuts. One limitation, though, for some reason, with this update is you can't do it in a normal career mode. So I've had to set this up as a My Team career mode. So our team has got Teo Pourchaire and Felipe Drugovich. But basically, 212 Motorsports this year is going to be useless. I've given them no starting money, basically no kind of facilities or anybody with any skills. Luckily, you don't have to start with your own team anymore. You've got the option to kind of set up a team and then race against them. So 212 Motorsports, yeah, not really going to be much of a consideration inside this mod unless they do something wild at any point over the course of this season. But yeah, George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli with the team ready for this opening, obviously start of the new era as well, for Mercedes as well. And I thought they'd be a good fun team to try and do this series with. I'm not going to do as much kind of behind the scenes work in the videos. I'm just going to focus a bit more on, kind of qualifying and the races. I still want to showcase every race inside this series because personally I enjoy doing that as well. But I know obviously a lot of other people sim a lot of races, just do a couple of different ones throughout the year. But yeah, it's not something that I really want to do. So we've done quite a talky intro ready for this video. Get yourself subscribed if you're new, obviously, especially if you're watching this on Matt212 Plays, because that's where all the videos are going to be going live. And I guess I'll see you guys out in Australia.
It's wonderful to be back down under for the Australian Grand Prix. The beginning of a brand new Formula 1 season. Every team, every driver, whether rookies or champions, all start here on zero, ahead of another year's battle for glory. Mercedes will be giving a shot to new talent this weekend. The question is, can they compete with the old hands? Let's see what the weekend has in store.
Well, here we are then, taking a look at our first race of the all-new season. Light rain predicted on Saturday, so that might make things interesting as we head into qualifying. And then it should be a dry Grand Prix come Sunday afternoon. Obviously, Antonelli, he's going to need to get a lot of time in the car over the course of the season, but we could try. I don't think it's worth, certainly not worth trying to focus on any of our young drivers this early on in the season. I might not normally put free practice into these videos. It depends kind of what you guys would like to see as well. But yeah, I'm interested in kind of just making sure, especially through this first race weekend of the year, that we get the car set up in a position that we're all happy with. So yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully we can start the year in, you know, kind of the way we want to go forward, of course. The car's not the most competitive to begin with. The Mercedes is definitely a little bit nerfed inside F1 Manager at the start of career mode. So I've opted for 2 big upgrades on the car immediately I believe we've done a front wing, big upgrade there, and the underfloor. So they should be showing up, I believe, after Japan ready for the kind of Middle Eastern leg early on in the season. Yeah, the Mercedes car as well looks really, really good inside this game. And, well, I think, obviously, as the year goes on, Antonelli will hopefully become a lot more confident. No idea who that is. Is that Kasper Suka in the Red Bull car? That seems like a very odd one. Is it Kasper Suka? I can't actually see who it is at the moment. I don't know if we'll be able to have a look through the... Oh, there you go. It is Kasper Suka. So, yeah, he's over at Red Bull for some reason. So, not sure why they're not putting their new driver into the car immediately. Pietro Fittipaldi swapping out for Ollie Behrman as well, so a bit of a weird one. Zane Maloney for Bortoletto. Crawford for Stroll. And then, of course, obviously, yeah, for Cher and Drugovic. I basically threw them in because I thought it would be interesting to see kind of how they fare as the season goes on. But again, they've been given not a particularly good car and not a car that I think is ever, you know, going to be able to challenge for points or anything like that. So for those two, it might be a long year of suffering. Now, there are some good strengths to this Mercedes, though. It is very, very good on its tyres, apparently. So hopefully we're going to be able to try and utilise that to the best of our ability as the year goes on. Here at Antonelli's voice in the car for the first time. I hope he has a good year in 2025 as well. But yeah, so the car is very, very good in its tyre performance. It's pretty good at medium and high speed corners. It struggles at low speed. So that's why we've done the front wing upgrade, and I put an emphasis on trying to make the low speed downforce on the car much, much better as well then. So hopefully that'll all work for us as the year goes on. But yeah, it's kind of mainly that aspect of the car early on that we want to fix. We need to make sure, first and foremost, that we kind of get competitive with Aston Martin and then really McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull, who have all got a little bit of a bump at the top of the order, as Antonelli not happy with the car early on then. So we'll bring it back in and we will get that tweaked. What doesn't he like then? Too much oversteer, too much straight line speed is quite an interesting one. And then, yeah, I think we try and mix things up early on. We try and obviously take some gambles with the way we kind of tune the setup into the car. So if we go oversteer like that and then bring that in a bit more, hopefully we'll be able to get it back out there. As Russell, again, also not happy with the car too early on in the session. It's why I'm not sure I want to feature too much free practice anymore inside this game. Because it is very much just kind of, you follow a very similar system each and every weekend, as we did get the traction absolutely nailed in the first car there. So we can just figure out a little bit more oversteer and maybe just bring in a couple of the other aspects just a little bit more. We go like that, perhaps. That could work. That looks pretty good. So yeah, we'll try and send Russell back out there as well then. You can see he has got a bit of a margin over Antonelli early on. Obviously Hadjar in that V car as well, alongside Tsunoda ready for the new season, is going to be exciting. Luckily as well, I think we're probably a bit lucky in 2025 that not too many deliveries have changed. Because I did have a quick look around, but I couldn't really kind of find one mod that would allow us to fix up, you know, get all the 25 liveries on the car. But I don't think it's too important either. Maybe if something comes along, then I'll whack it on as well. But this is kind of more, you know, again, it's a management style game. It is a lot more about just trying to do all that kind of thing. And I just want to kind of see where we can get Mercedes by the end of the year, because it is going to be an interesting season for them. Obviously, losing Lewis Hamilton, Russell now is going to have to properly lead that team. And he's going to be interesting to kind of see what direction he can bring them. And also kind of the power dynamic between him and Antonelli. You know, I think Mercedes are looking at Antonelli not necessarily as their future instead of George Russell, but if he can kick on strong early on in the year, Russell might find very, very quickly that there is kind of a lot more emphasis on Kimi's side of the garage and things like that as well then, as Kimi's still not happy with the car then, so we'll bring him back in once more. Quite surprised he's able to provide feedback much quicker than George. But as you can see, yeah, he just took the car on way too much of an extreme with that second run. How can I tweak the oversteer to be a lot better. We can't really change a lot at the moment with it. If we go like that and then go like that, I guess could work. We actually need to run a lot of downforce here, which is quite surprising, to be honest. Just want to try and make sure that everything is close to perfect if we can. Nice and early on. But yeah, a lot of aspects, yeah, really aren't changing what we actually want them to. So I guess if we go like that, that could work quite nicely for us. We'll try that with Kimi. He should be able to get one last run on the board before the session comes to an end. As hopefully George Russell, again, will give us some more positive feedback on the other side of the garage there. But he's not going to have much time. There we go. Yeah, Russell happy with the car as well, which is, yeah, very, very good news. Let's see, does he want anything else changed? And he's pretty confident with where it's at the moment. I don't want to try and tweak too much, potentially upset him as well. So I think we'll try just a little tweak with the toe angle. Just give him slightly more braking stability, slightly less cornering, and a tiny tweak on the understeer as well then. But yeah, we've pretty much done everything we can then with the car. I don't tend to bother. I kind of let the game simulate F2 and FP3. So I guess we'll join you guys in qualifying.
Now it's time to see who'll come out on top as qualifying gets underway.
The session will be divided into Q1, Q2 and Q3. With the slowest 5 drivers eliminated from each period, their best times will determine the grid for the upcoming race.
There, of course, we've got Nico Hulkenberg. How do you think he's faring heading into qualifying?
Looking at the lap times, we saw a real lack of pace from them in practice. They never looked quite comfortable with the setup, and they'll need to try something new for qualifying if they want to get past Q1.
Fortunately for us, it's nearly time for them to hit the track.
Well, here we are then heading into qualifying, and it is going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with the rain. Normally, I would assume that we can easily make it through Q1, but in changeable conditions, I'm always just a little bit more skeptical inside this series. So let's take a look then. Where am I looking? Sorry, completely. It's taken me a little while to kind of remember how everything works in F1 Manager. So there's actually a little bit of a dip in the rain nice and early on in the session before it just starts ramping up again. So I think we want to get out there in a couple of minutes. We'll try, obviously, just the one set of the intermediates. But if we give it about a minute and a half before we head out there, or give it 2 minutes, I reckon, as the rain is just dropping off a little bit nice and early. Maybe, I might have jumped the gun slightly with that one. Might just have to try and get him out for 2 runs then early on in the session, as we might well be the only car out there. He's binned it in less than a minute! What has he done? Kimi Antonelli going for a spin and he's damaged the car. He's already got a puncture though. He didn't hit anything, luckily. But how has he already got a puncture in that car? Like, that's very, very weird. So I'm going to have to bring him back in immediately then. That's got to be the weirdest thing I've ever seen on this game. Antonelli ended up with a puncture immediately. Or apparently he didn't. What is going on with Kimi Antonelli early on then? We'll send him straight back out. There's George Russell then about to start. Has Antonelli actually got a puncture, or is it just the game being a bit weird? I have no idea what's kind of going on. Tyres are all fine, so I think we're just going to ignore that. There's still a couple of weird glitches inside F1 Manager on this game there. But George Russell going out for his first proper lap in anger. No, he's finished his first lap in anger, sorry. So we're 27-2. Got no idea whether that's any good or not for George, but we'll see just how close Kimi can get by the time he gets around there. Of course, he's just more about kind of seeing about everybody else then. As if we go like that, there we go. We can't see the weird puncture of Kimi Antonelli then, but in his first ever F1 qualifying session, gets the power down out of that final corner, has given Charles Leclerc actually a little bit of a slipstream to finish off his own lap. So Russell 2 seconds slower than George Russell early on then, as the rain is definitely coming back, definitely kind of dropping a little bit. Even Tsunoda has been able to go 8/10 of a second clear of George. So we will send him back out. We'll get more fuel into the car, I believe. And yeah, we will send him back out on that same set of tyres once again. Just confirm, obviously, all of that. And there we go, completed. So why can't I set... Oh, he needs more fuel. So, can I add a bit more fuel to the car? We'll just obviously make sure we got all of that on. Everything else looks fine. So, we'll get it reconfigured. How do I add more fuel to this car? What am I forgetting here? Flying laps. We need additional fuel. Give him 1 lap of additional fuel. Maybe that will fix it. That seems very, very odd early on. Maybe I'm just forgetting something in this game. I don't know. It has been a while since I've played it. And there we go. Now we'll send him back out then, as the rain is still definitely dropping. So Antonelli has timed this pretty well. You see Gasly able to get within a second of his teammate then. As who is this just in the way? It is one of those Alpine cars of, I believe, yeah, it must be Jack Doohan, isn't it? He does get out of the way now, so this is going to be a session of just trying to stay out of trouble as best as we can. The rain, I think, has pretty much reached the bottom of what it will do in this session. So, yeah, you can just see now it is starting to ramp up just a little bit more once again. So, hopefully, Antonelli is still going to be able to get a good time on the board there. Hopefully, we'll go kind of between Leclerc and Pierre Gasly. He rounds his way out of that final corner, up towards the line. I'm hoping for like a mid to high 125. Antonelli will run only P5.
So currently P5.
So we have not got the pace we need in either of the cars at the moment. Hopefully Russell is going to be able to try and get himself in some clear air and go for a good lap. He's actually going to be stuck a little bit behind the Sauber here. So I'm going to tell him just to get on with it now. Just try and make sure that we've got some temperature in the tyres. Get him on the deploy. And there we go. Bortoletto will just about dive out of the way then. So we got 3 seconds off the pace with Russell right now then. So we need to try and send Antonelli back out there once again. I'm going to give him a fresh set of tyres as well once he's come back through the pit lane here. But yeah, I think what we need to do is try and get some temperature up into the tyres nice and early for both drivers, because they're just trying to start their laps on cold rubber, which is really not working for us. Hamilton then has gone within, well, about 3/10 away from Verstappen there, so he's nice and close to those Red Bull cars that seem to be working quite nicely here as well early on in the session. How much battery will Russell have? Because if we can go for 2 laps, then I will try to obviously make him do that. But maybe I know we haven't even gotten a fuel average to try and go, you know, 1 fast, 1 slow, 1 fast lap again. As we will get Antonelli with new fuel and some fresh tyres as well. Just got to try and remember I click on the right options there. There we go. So yeah, when he comes back out then, I'm going to have to really try and get him just to go for it nice and aggressively there. I mean, we're almost in the drop zone already with both cars at the moment. So this is really not working for me. So I'm going to send Antonelli out. I'm going to make sure that he's working those tyres as soon as he gets out there. Russell could theoretically, I think, get 2 laps in, especially as he's building up a bit more temperature as well in those tyres at the end of this one. But it's always about trying to get the AI not to box at the end of the lap in this game that works a little bit peculiarly. It's now just actually starting to overheat those tyres a little bit more. So we will get Kimi just to start working those tyres a bit more aggressively to get some temperature in them. As Russell then over the line, he will go P7. So there we go, we have got pace in the car. So I'm not going to worry so much then with George. Just going to make sure that Antonelli does get 1 good run on the board. So yeah, George will dive back into the pit lane at the end of this lap. I just want to make sure that Kimi has got the tyre temperature where he needs it as well. But I mean, slower than Carlos Sainz in the Williams. I know this should be a good track for Williams anyway inside this game then, but certainly not quite what we wanted at the moment, as yeah, Antonelli then getting those tyres to where he needs. Just try and bring his pace back down a little bit through these final couple of corners, but now, yeah, he's got to go for it. So we will get him on the deploy out of that final turn, and hopefully Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Apparently he's still got a puncture. I think he ended up with a puncture at the end of free practice, and it's just kind of carried that on throughout the rest of the session, which is a little bit peculiar as well then, but yeah, he's down to P18 then, so he is in the drop zone. He's only 3 thousandths of a second clear of Drogovic. And even Porsche there is up in with times that would be good enough for Q2 at the moment. So I think if Teo Porsche has nailed that run, then he's done a really, really good job here inside that car. What's going to be Kimi's Sector 1 time? I believe he's meant to be aiming for like 28s, 29s, 29.2. Don't know whether that's any good at the moment, as Russell did a 28.7 So he's half a second away still in Sector 1. Problem is that the weather is getting worse and worse again at this stage of the session. We do need a bit of an improvement here. If we could just find another half a second or so, that would be really, really reassuring. As a 20.9. How far again is he off of George there? Sector 2. Only a tenth off that time around, so he's hopefully going to be around the time of Alonso and Stroll, which should be safely through still into Q2 here as he rounds his way in towards those final couple of corners. Just now starting to struggle a little bit with overheating tyres there through the final couple of turns. But yeah, we've got the car roughly where we would expect it to be. Just a little bit, like I said, of overheating through that final corner. Up towards the line. Should be a big improvement, though, for Kimi Antonelli. It will be a 26.2, I believe. He will go P12 then, so between those Astons. And hopefully that is a safely through to Q2. Oh, no. No. Who's improving right at the end there? Esteban Ocon has gone up to P9. So I think Antonelli's going to be out in Q1 then for the first race of the year. Because he's 11 thousandths behind Alonso. There's not enough time to get him back out there. And Antonelli will line up P17 then on the grid for the Australian Grand Prix. That has been an absolute disaster to kick off the year. I know he was struggling anyway with a bit of pace. He got a bit unlucky, but just could not time the run. And Antonelli is out. Well, this is going to be a really, really interesting end then to Q2 here, because it looks like we've just seen a switch over towards the dry compounded tyre right towards the end of the session. So Hamilton, Lawson, Alonso and ourselves have all gone out on softs right at the end. Tsunoda, though, has just gone fastest on a set of intermediates. So I got no idea which strategy is going to be the way to go here. But as George Russell then tries to get some pace ready to go in the car, he's going to get one opportunity to try and move himself up the order. Esteban Ocon now goes fastest, so we aren't seeing those soft compound runners improve just yet. But admittedly, none of them have been able to put a time on the board then. So George Russell flying the flag for Mercedes here to kickstart the 2025 season. We have to make sure he makes it into Q3. If we end up with neither car in Q3, I might well be the worst manager in the world of Formula 1. Alonso now into the drop zone. Luckily, most drivers are pretty spread out here as they try and get on to their last qualifying runs. We've got Esteban Ocon, who might just be a little bit in the way through the end, or through the start of Sector 2 even. So hopefully these guys are going to jump out of the way. There you go. Hamilton now into the drop zone as well. But surely we're going to start seeing some of these times improve as Alonso doesn't improve yet. Has he got across the line? I don't think he has. There we go. Alonso finally to the top of the board. How far clear is he? He's a good second ahead of anybody else. Hamilton will go P2. Lawson will immediately slot in between them as well then. So surely now George Russell is going to be able to find the time on this lap. Purple Sector 1, green through Sector 2 here. I did have a bit of a scare thinking maybe we'd taken the strategy the wrong way yet again, like we did in Q1. But out of the final corner, it is only going to take one run here, but we should be through and into Q3. Will we be able to go faster though than Lewis Hamilton in his Ferrari? Yes, we will, by 0.003 of a second. And there we go, we make it into Q3. So does Esteban Ocon. That's a very good effort by him. Well, heading out into Q3, the third and final session, and the rain is back once more then. Just like we saw in Q1, there's going to be a bit of a weird dip in kind of the amount of damp on the circuit, and then it is just meant to level out once more. So trying to get a run in nice and early to enjoy these conditions. Just trying to make sure we actually get the temperature into the tyres before we start this first run then. But honestly, I think apart from Esteban Ocon and maybe Lance Stroll, with the conditions not really moving around much, I don't think we're going to be able to spring much of a surprise come the end of qualifying here, unless we can just absolutely nail a time on the board without dealing with too much traffic. Max Verstappen, currently the fastest man on the circuit, as you would come to expect from the Red Bull, all things being equal here. We have just got a little bit of traffic in front of us that hopefully won't cause too many problems. There we go, making our way around one of those Aston Martins. 28.7 through Sector 1. That's quicker than we saw, or about the same time as we saw from George earlier on in qualifying as well. Then as Norris and Leclerc now go quicker than the Dutchman. Liam Lawson to the top of the board. So we are seeing some big improvements from other drivers. 28.7, 21.7, Sector 1 and Sector 2. That's pretty decent, but nothing particularly special. As Lance Stroll quicker than Fernando Alonso. Even Ocon has gone quicker than the Aston Martin then. Is out of the final corner. George Russell then first lap on the board will go 10th. 1.5 seconds off the pace. I'm just not convinced in these wet conditions we've got enough to do anything against really anybody. Russell then getting ready to start his his second run here in Q3. We haven't got a full charge of battery though, which I'm not too sure why. So we need to try and get that sorted as we get ready to go then. Luckily we don't tend to use too much battery around a qualifying lap. Here is Hamilton now to the top of the board as the level of water on the circuit has continued to get less and less right towards the end of the session. It's pretty much level out though of 1.25 mil on the circuit, but hopefully now Russell will be able to get one last good lap on the board then. We want to be aiming for kind of a 27 flat through Sector 1. If we want to get ahead of anybody here, Leclerc's had a bit of a disaster all the way down in P8 in the end, but Verstappen very, very close to Lewis Hamilton in the end. We have still got a few cars that are trying to finish off their runs, and Russell, sorry, 28.2 then, so half second up in Sector 1. Lance Stroll then has gone up into P7 here, because I think Hamilton might have bagged himself P1 in his debut for Ferrari, which would be quite an impressive turnaround for the books. Sector 2 for George. It's going to be a 20.4 actually. That's quite a big improvement as well then through Sector 2. So he is definitely finding time here. We need to make sure that he gets nice and close. At least gets past Esteban Ocon. And if we end up slower than a Haas here, I'm going to be really, really disappointed by the end of qualifying then. But George Russell winding his way through these final couple of corners then. It's been a fairly rough qualifying session for us anyway as a team. We're going to have to try and focus on Antonelli as we get into the Grand Prix there, moving his way back up through the order as well. Out of the final corner though, up towards the line, Russell with limited battery. He will end up in P6. That was better than I expected him to do, to be honest. But it's Hamilton. First ever race for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton will be on pole position. That is quite the story.
The fans here are all set, every one of them eagerly awaiting the 58 laps of today's race.
Albert Park often seems to set teammate against teammate. From Hill and Villeneuve dueling for the 1996 win, to Bottas beating fellow Mercedes driver and pole sitter Hamilton to the win in 2019.
The Albert Park circuit is bursting with rapid corners and a long straight where drivers can push their speed to the limits. Good attention to medium speed downforce will likely make beating this beast of a track just a little bit easier. Tension continues to build here as race day begins.
Well, I don't think we're going to struggle with our two cars battling with each other too much throughout the Grand Prix. 58 laps ahead of us here from the Albert Park circuit, and it looks like the one stop is doable. So I think I'm going to put George on a soft to hard compound run, and then Kimi will try and do medium to hard. I'll open up the two stop if I feel necessary later on, but ultimately I think with kind of how good the tyre wear should be on this car, the tyre wear should be on this car. Hopefully we're going to be a little bit more competitive. Setups we didn't quite perfect come the end of qualifying. You can see we're just slightly out still on the oversteer on one of those cars, so we might just try and tweak it ever so slightly there, bring it slightly more in line with George. Kimi as well, I think actually running a bit too much downforce on that second car, so yeah, we'll just tweak the wing angles slightly for both of them here. Russell's going to have to try and go aggressive nice and early though on the Kimi Antonelli. This first race for him is going to be all about survival. Let's do this thing though. It's time for the Australian Grand Prix.
Welcome back everyone. The final preparations are now being made as we head into the race. There's certainly been a buzz around the Mercedes driver this weekend.
All the way back at 17, meaning there's not a lot of expectations on their shoulders.
Right, let's get to it then. Get ready for the Australian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Well, apparently then Kimi Antonelli still supporting a rear puncture on that car, so really not too sure what is going on with that then. But George Russell in towards turn 1 needs to try and defend from Charles Leclerc there, which he will do. So hanging on. No, he won't immediately. As soon as I say that, he'll lose the spot through those first couple of turns. My hope today is that we're going to be quicker than those Aston Martins. I think Leclerc in that Ferrari is going to be too much to handle there. As Russell, he's lost a place to Stroll. He's going to lose loads of places early on. What is he doing off the start of this one? At least Kimi Antonelli has made a little bit of progress through the first couple of corners there. At least getting one spot. But yeah, George Russell there. Big mistake off the start of the Grand Prix. And I can't afford to kind of lose sight. I mean, Tsunoda up in P9. That's been a really good start for him. But yeah, Russell can't afford to lose sight of these cars in front too early on here. Because, you know, the likes of Behrman, Sainz and Albon as well. If they can hang on in the DRS for too long, then they might be a real threat to us as the early laps go by then. But I mean, for George Russell, yeah, that has been absolutely terrible early on here. I don't really want to push on the tyres too quickly. He's going to lose a spot to Ollie Behrman as well. How bad is this Mercedes at the start of the season there? Losing a spot to the rookie. Looks like Antonelli as well then. Yeah, like I said, gained that one place, I think, off Nico Hülkenberg off the start. So that's worked out pretty nicely for him. As hopefully we're not going to see too many problems a little bit further behind. But yeah, Antonelli, his job early on is just try and make sure those mediums are in a good spot. You see, we have got quite a mix between medium and the soft compound runners there. Hülkenberg on the hards. I believe he might be the only car up and down the order that has opted for that strategy. And I'm going to tell George Russell then nice and early on, he's got to try and go for the overtakes. We need to try and get a back past Behrman there. As Tsunoda might quickly drop out the DRS range of some of those other cars as well. So that's going to be really interesting to see whether Yuki can try and hang on in the range of those other cars around him. But hopefully now Russell should be able to get the run on Ollie Behrman then as we make our way down the back straight. Hopefully he's going to be able to do something with it to the outside, perhaps. Nope, he's going to sit in and watch. One thing I still definitely hate about F1 Manager is sometimes the AI's inability to actually go for overtakes there. I mean, Behrman was able to do it without DRS. Surely Russell, with DRS on our car, is going to be able to try and do something here as he has a look to the inside. To the inside he will go down to that final kind of corner of the Sector 2. And, well, he will make the move work then. But already we've got a 2-second gap up to Tsunoda in front. So we're going to have to try and save a little bit of battery in that car now. But back into the points. Obviously, is the important bit nice and early on then. So hopefully we're going to be able to pull away from Ollie Behrman there as well. And, well, maybe if Alonso struggles against the likes of Stroll as well, which seems a very odd thing to be saying early on then. But we'll bring George's overtake aggression back down. He is trying to defend from Behrman. Maybe a little bit too much too early here. And this is really not working for him in the early stages. As Behrman once again tucked up in the wheel tracks, but yeah, can't quite do anything too early on here. This Mercedes just seems to be really slow, and it's not working for us, as Behrman again will make it through once more there, so not too happy with all of this going down too early on. Got to try and make sure we save a little bit of fuel for later on in the race, although actually he's not struggling too much with the engine temperature, so I guess that works quite nicely for us. As Russell again just tucked up in the wheel tracks. Will he be able to try and get the run off of the corner once more? He will tuck back in. He will have a look to the inside. And there we go. 3 wide temporarily. As Behrman losing 2 places there. Carlos Sainz then running up into 11th spot. As Antonelli then up at a P15. Trying to have a look around the outside of Pierre Gasly. Which he will make happen as well then. So Antonelli, his pace is going to have to come a little bit later on in the stint there. But Russell just cannot really make any kind of breakaway from these cars behind him there. And I mean, Tsunoda's kind of taken Russell's role early on of kind of hopefully the bottom of the top 10 here, as Russell's still trying to defend from other cars. So I think with Antonelli, we're going to have to try and push and be a little bit aggressive here. Maybe use Russell to try and give Kimi a bit of a better plan of attack against some of these other cars. So we're going to tell him to go on the high overtake aggression setting as well then. And hopefully he can make a move on Alex Albon nice as quickly there as a big run to make our way out onto that back straight. And again, Albon just able to defend it here. The Mercedes, its top-end speed is not particularly great inside this game, but we just need to make sure that we build up his confidence nice and early on as well. As Albon, yeah, dropping away a little bit from some of those cars in front. Antonelli will do what we've seen Russell already attempt a couple of times there. So if he can make this move happen, which he might just be able to on the exit. Nope, again, can't quite get the power down there. Will try and get the power down into the inside of Alex Albon. Great move there. As Lance Stroll has a bit of a lock-up further up the road then. So that is spreading out some of those cars a bit further up, which works quite nicely. I think we'll just bring George even in. Don't really think there's a need to try and go too aggressive on the overtake, but again, he'll make it happen and will hang on. So if we can just get Antonelli making some moves early on here, which he might again be able to do against these two Haas cars and the Williams there. If Sainz loses time here, now we need to go for it with George Russell. Break free from these other cars, so we'll try and go full attack mode with the battery. And there we go, 1.5 second gap is exactly what we like to see. So hopefully Kimi Antonelli is going to be able to start making moves to the inside of Esteban Ocon through the exit of Sector 1. That's a really, really aggressive opportunity that he has absolutely been able to capitalise on. And now you can see the gap to Sainz opening up to almost 2 seconds here. So if we can get the cars into 10th and 11th, that'd be really, really reassuring here early on. Hamilton has picked up front wing damage. So what's happened to the Mercedes battling with Max Verstappen early on in this GP? I don't think we're going to get a look at this one then. It's gone. Go defensive against each other. Kimi Antonelli to the outside of Ollie Behrman, the former Prema teammates there. Not quite able to make anything happen that time round. Round the outside he'll go though. Look at that from Antonelli. Fantastic little move to get around the outside of Ollie Behrman there, and then up into 12th spot then. Hopefully be able to get a run on Carlos Sainz pretty quickly as well. But then it's just the more difficult task of trying to make sure that we get away and don't drag him in the DRS as well. As this is a fantastic start by Kimi Antonelli there. If you had to guess which one of our two drivers was the experienced one, I think ultimately at the moment we would be guessing that it is the young Italian here rather than George Russell there. So can we now break away from Carlos Sainz? And the gap already up to 0.6 of a second. And I think might just stay there. So this is looking pretty good early on. We don't have any kind of information on what's happened to Hamilton then. So I'm guessing it's just a little bit of end plate damage on that Mercedes there. But yeah, I mean, Russell even should be quicker than Tsunoda. So hopefully that gap can continue to come down. We've just, I think, got to take a little bit more there. See if we can get that gap over a second to Carlos Sainz behind. But I don't think that's going to happen as easily as we wanted to there. 0.6 of a second now. Not quite going to get it where we need it. So we'll leave Antonelli even just running in this little pace bracket over the next few laps. As Lawson now as well reporting some damage on the car. As Sainz then will make it back through. Sainz is broken free. No idea how he's managed that. So we need to try and make sure that we are not allowing him to get too far away. But, I mean, yeah, Russell's taking time out of Tsunoda, though, which I guess is good. I know we don't normally have the pace early on in this game to kind of battle with Aston Martin, so as long as we're getting the car into the points, that's kind of the big goal here, as, again, Antonelli just struggling a little bit more than I would like to see. Maybe we could go with an undercut on for George to try and get him a bit closer to Yuki. But Yuki, I mean, to be fair to him, is not losing time to Alonso in that Aston Martin then. So I think we're not in a bad spot at the moment with George Russell either here. Antonelli, after all that progress early on, is now just kind of having to sit with this group of cars there. Look after the tyres. Don't do anything too risky. And we will try and get him not to be too aggressive with the overtakes. But he has got a lot of confidence in that second car right now. So this is working quite nicely for him. As Lance Stroll then going to become one of our first drivers into the pit lane. And Antonelli's binned it.
Okay, copy.
Yellow flags out in Sector 1. I don't think we're going to see a safety car because of it. I think, again, just like we saw him in qualifying, he's not even under pressure. I mean, again, very lucky not to hit the wall, but Kimi Antonelli, it has been a weekend where he's shown a lot of pace, but also, yeah, struggling a little bit maybe with the strategy here as tyre wear his sights on. He's on the medium, so they're starting to really work for him as he's actually closed back in on George Russell. I mean, for Mercedes, this is a really, really bad track inside this game, is what I'm telling myself at the moment. So, Antonelli, tyre temperature there just starting to creep up a little bit more than I'd want it to. He is just saving a little bit of battery, though, as he drops now down behind Lance Stroll here. So he's just got to try and hang with him as best as he can over these next few laps here. As Russell, I'm going to try not lose too much time battling with Carlos Sainz either. But this is really, really tricky at this stage of the Grand Prix. We've got a lot of cars that have got a lot of straight line speed that are really just trying to push their tyres as best as they can. Russell, I'm going to dive him in now onto that set of the hard compound tyre. And Antonelli, I don't think he's going to be too far behind either. We're meant to have very competitive tyre wear inside this game at the moment, but it just doesn't seem to be working for us early on in this GPS. I mean, he's even gone behind Théo Pourchaire here early on. So this is not working early on then. There you go. You get to have a look at the livery of the fake 2-and-2 Motorsport car. I mean, he's come from a long way back there. And Antonelli's just got no defence against a fellow medium compound runner. Yeah, this is not working for us then, as Antonelli will come out ahead of George Russell, I believe. Théo Pourchaire's come out between them. So, yeah, we're going to have to try and see if we can make a move happen with George Russell once again. So we make our way out onto the back straight there. Surely he's going to be able to get a run. Pourchaire's got no DRS either to really try and go for anything. So surely he can try and get the DRS run on him. If not through the first part of this back straight, then definitely through the second. And then we're going to have to try and obviously tell Antonelli, I think we'll actually get Antonelli to box at the end of the lap just to make sure that he gets out of the way of Russell as well then. But yeah, Pourchaire's actually doing a pretty good job in that 2-and-2 Motorsport car there. As here we go, Russell down the inside there and will be able to move back through and up into P15 of the Grand Prix. Yeah, P15 then. So Antonelli in here will go. Verstappen and Hamilton already coming back out of the pit lane then. So that Stroll has really made this strategy work at the moment. He's not that far behind a few of these other cars then. So Russell's now got free air. He's just going to be able to get on with it. Antonelli is going to be right down at the rear of the field as well. So he's going to re-emerge in P19 in this GP. And yeah, this really just has not quite worked out for us early on in the Grand Prix. Even Isaac Hadjar has been able to get past him as well then. So we'll try and get him neutral on that. We'll try and get him to push a bit more as well. Now he's just got to really focus on the tyres. Like I said, I don't know if it's just a graphical bug or whether there is kind of a bigger issue with the puncture on that car. But either way, yeah, this is just not working for Kimi Antonelli at the moment. Got to hope that more cars are on a two-stop strategy here later on in the afternoon as we wait for more cars to peel through the pit lane then. Russell should get back inside the points nice and quickly there, as I believe Hulkenberg has not boxed just yet. There we go, Hulkenberg in. So Russell is, yeah, just in no man's land in that 10th spot at the moment. But you can see a few drivers at the front are opting for a two-stop then. But yeah, Russell, hopefully he's going to be able to stretch this one stop to the end of the afternoon. I mean, Antonelli, he's battling with the Sauber of Nico Hulkenberg here, which is a pretty sad state of affairs. Hopefully we'll be able to try and get past one of the Isaac Hadjar in that V-carb as well. But you can see we're just struggling with engine temperature, so really just not working for Antonelli at the moment. He's not too far behind some of those other cars either. But Sainz is looking... Russell is looking pretty comfortable ahead of Carlos Sainz. So if we could somehow get Antonelli up the order a little bit more, which he's slowly doing, admittedly here, then hopefully he's going to be a bit more competitive towards the end of the afternoon. So he'll make the move work then on Ollie Behrman and immediately kind of break away from him here. So, I mean, what is Sainz doing strategy-wise? Sainz is on the medium, so he will definitely have to box again by the end of the afternoon. It's going to be really, really tight, though, if we can make either of our cars get towards the end of the GP. It's just trying to make sure that we've got enough of a gap over those cars behind, which we should do. So Gasly then up in P13 He's going to be 4 seconds behind, so hopefully that gap's going to be big enough. Especially, obviously, if Antonelli is still using some of that extra fuel that we've got in the car at the moment. Oscar Piastri in for his second stop of the Grand Prix there, as Russell now then is closing in on Tsunoda. Let's have a look. What happened to Ollie Behrman then down at Haas? Into the pits. I struggled to get that rear left on. That's a bit of a shame for the Haas man as well. But, yeah, you can just see... I don't think... Tsunoda hasn't... Oh, Tsunoda has... No, Tsunoda's also on the medium... sorry, the hard compound again then. So he's just trying to stretch this out. It actually might be Leclerc in that Ferrari. That's looking pretty competitive here, because he's not that far behind Max Verstappen either. But he should be able to go to the end, which I don't think Verstappen's going to be able to here. So let's just see if Russell can continue to close in that gap and whether Sainz... There you go, Sainz in immediately then. So Antonelli 20 seconds further back. But, I mean, he's just kind of sat in a bit of no man's land, isn't he, George Russell right now? But still needs to try and get back past Tsunoda. It's just going to be whether those Aston Martins get back to him by the end of the afternoon there. And Antonelli still... I mean, he's in a pretty good bit of clear air at the moment, so it's allowing him to focus on his own tyres. But I'm just not convinced he's really going to be able to do a lot there, as Alonso will make it back by Russell. Yeah, Stroll, I'm sure, as well, will get to him towards the end of the afternoon. But it's just whether we could try and defend from George Russell here. Sorry, defend from Lance Stroll with George Russell here towards the end of the afternoon. To maybe, just maybe... give Antonelli a chance towards the end of the race. I guess the other one, of course, is still Tsunoda, who his tyres are looking fantastic at the moment. So Leclerc has got a 3-second gap out front. Verstappen is still 7 seconds behind him, so this could come down to the wire towards the end of the afternoon. As here we go then with Russell all over the back then of Tsunoda here, who's definitely starting to struggle a bit more on those tyres towards the end of the afternoon. Be able to push a little bit with the fuel, but could we... I think it's worth actually boxing with George right now and trying to go quick towards the end of the GP. So we're going to box him in onto a fresh set of softs. Hopefully right now then. It's not Tsunoda actually does that, so we're going to cancel that stop. We're going to try and just gamble it to the end of the afternoon. This should bring Antonelli up as well into that top 10. And then if we can use him... to try and defend from Tsunoda towards the end of the afternoon. This could work really well. It won't actually happen, though, as Tsunoda's come out far enough in front. So, yeah, Russell is kind of just doing everything he needs to. 15 laps to go, though, I think. Yeah, we're going to have to box both cars, aren't we? They're not going to be able to get to the end on a set of the soft compound tyres, so... a bit of a shame, ultimately. We might risk it with Russell, just see if we can do anything, because that tyre wear is still looking pretty good. At the moment, it's 15 laps to go then. The gap to Russell is really not coming down to... sorry, the gap to Stroll even is not coming down that much. And Antonelli then is hopefully going to be quick towards the end of the race. No battery left for George either. As Antonelli, has got enough in reserve in both aspects here that he should be fine to the end of the afternoon. But even if we can just beat Tsunoda here, this could work really, really nicely for us. 33% though. On those hard compound tyres, so they are really starting to lose grip towards the end of the afternoon, as Antonelli making moves a little bit further behind, still able to slice his way through the order there, as he's actually going to make a double overtake then around the outside of Albon, and I believe that was it was Isaac Hadjar as well. So here comes Lance Stroll then, trying to make the move on George Russell back in towards turn one. I don't think we're going to be able to fight that one all too much at this stage of the Grand Prix. I mean, to be fair to Russell, we could dive him in now and then hopefully try and go really aggressive against Yuki towards the end of the GP. He's not going to lose another spot to Carlos Sainz then. He's got the gap a little bit further behind. The last thing I want is a puncture on that second car. So, yeah, Russell hopefully now then, that gap's going to start coming back down to those other cars towards the end of the afternoon. If we can get back to Yuki, I'll be pretty happy. Towards the end of the GP there, and hopefully Antonelli, he's going to be able to get back to Carlos Sainz as well by the end of the race. But yeah, I'm just not convinced. We just haven't had the pace this weekend, plain and simple. We just haven't had a car that is competitive enough to really fight Even, you know, against the likes of the V-Carb there, that was just able to get into the slipstream of everybody else. And is really not giving us much opportunity then. Looks like Verstappen looks pretty comfortable to take the victory here as well towards the end of the afternoon, ahead of both of those Ferrari cars as well here. I mean, to be fair to Russell, he's taking a lot of time out of Yuki. Could we just go full attack mode towards the end of this one and maybe, just maybe, get to Tsunoda by the end of the afternoon? We are still on the lead lap, which I guess is a good sign as well then. But yeah, the gap now less than 9 seconds. So it is definitely coming down there as we're actually closing in on both Stroll and Tsunoda towards the end of the GP then. So we need those two to battle just a little bit more then. Final lap of the Grand Prix. And Max Verstappen out of the final corner though, comfortably out in front come the end of the race there. Red Bull will kickstart the year with yet another victory for the Dutchman as he looks to try and claim his 5th World Championship in a row. Hamilton though, what a start to Ferrari life that has been, up in P2 ahead of Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris will come through for P4 ahead of Liam Lawson. That's been a fairly decent start to the campaign for him. Antonelli just ending up 1 lap there in the end behind Carlos Sainz. But Russell as well. Oh, we can't let him run out of fuel on this last lap. We've got to be very, very careful that we make sure we've got a little bit of fuel towards the end of the GP. But ultimately, yeah, like I said, you know, this is a really, really tough track for Mercedes at the start of the year. I'm hoping Shanghai to be a little bit stronger for us in round 2 then. But yeah, Stroll will just about hold off ahead of Yuki Tsunoda there, who easily was one of the stars of the weekend. Out of the final corner though, Mercedes, that has been a tough start to life as the new team principal, but we know this car has got a lot of work required on it at the start of the year, so you know what, to get a point on the board, I think we should be pretty happy.
The Mercedes driver leaves the cockpit after a well-fought race.
Just out of the points today with a P12 finish in the end.
Well, Max Verstappen can add yet another podium to his already impressive record.
That gives them their first win of the season, and it was really well deserved.
Well, it wasn't exactly a walk in the park, but it was a thrilling weekend here for us all at the Australian Grand Prix. And as proceedings start to wind down here, what will Mercedes have made of this result, Karun?
It was a strangely mixed weekend for them. We saw one driver put in a strong performance, but it was a different story for the other. Definitely positives there though.
And that's about that for this weekend's here in Melbourne.
Join us for the next round as we head to Shanghai for all the excitement of the Chinese Grand Prix.
Well, there we are then. Max Verstappen will take victory here in the season opener in Albert Park. But Lewis Hamilton, I'm sure, will be a little bit gutted not to convert his pole into victory. But Ferrari's strength to kickstart the year certainly looks very, very promising. Charles Leclerc in 3rd ahead of Lando Norris and Liam Lawson. Oscar Piastri, a disappointing home Grand Prix in P6. They're ahead of both Aston Martin, Tsunoda, and George Russell. As I said, you know, I think I'd kind of almost forgotten just how bad the Mercedes is inside this game to kickstart proceedings there. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do with this car over the next few weekends. You can see both the 2 and 2 motorsport cars, they're 19th and 20th, able to beat out Gabriele Bortoletto and Jack Doohan when all is said and done. Drivers' Championship, of course, the same as our race results. Constructors-wise, though, Red Bull now at the top ahead of Ferrari, because I did also get rid of the fastest lap bonus point from this series as well, of course, because that's being scrapped for 2025 there. P6 in the Constructors, we will be aiming for P5 this year and maybe P4 if we can bring some upgrades against Aston Martin. Thank you all so much for watching though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 heads to Shanghai.